Okay, so I'm going to start chapter 13 again from the beginning, but I want you to remember all of the things that we talked about in class. I want you to particularly remember how awful it is to share things with other people that might be hurtful. In this chapter, Mouse had an idea to play a game, and the game turned out to be very, very hurtful. At the end of the chapter, I want you to wonder about what the kids could have played instead. And I want you to wonder about if you've ever hurt somebody. I want you to wonder about what you can do to be a better friend. Because that's really what Judy Blume wants you to understand. So here goes chapter 13. I'm going to have a slumber party. I've never had one. How could I when I have shared a room with Libby all my life? I just can't wait until Saturday night. Mouse, Sandra, and Jane are coming, and Mom says we can all sleep in my room if my friends bring sleeping bags with them. I even have new pajamas to wear. They are red and white striped. Mouse has the same ones. She promised to wear them so we can be twins like Sandra and Jane. My slumber party is going to be the best slumber party that ever was. Since I have been planning everything so carefully, I got really sore at Libby this morning when she told Mom, I'm going to invite Marianne Markman to sleep over Saturday night. Oh, no, I said. You know I'm having a slumber party. So, Libby said, who wants to get in your way? That's not fair, I told Mom. Can't I do something just once without her butting in? There's plenty of room, Sheila, Mom said. If Libby wants Marianne to spend the night, there's no reason why she can't. It has nothing to do with you. They'll try to boss us around, I cried, just like always. Ha, Libby said. Nobody's going to spoil your party, Mom told me, I promise. I don't see why she can't spend the night at Marianne's house instead. Because Marianne's parents are going out and her mother doesn't want us to stay alone, Libby said. Otherwise I would, in a second. I just know they will ruin everything. On Saturday, Marianne ate supper with us, so she was already there when my friends rang the bell. But she and my sister were locked up in Libby's room, listening to music, and I hoped that's where they would stay for the rest of the night. After Mouse, Sandra, and Jane said hello to Daddy and Mom, I took them up to my room, and we spread out their sleeping bags. Sandra's and Jane's are the same. There is a picture of Snoopy on the front, zippers down the sides, and red flannel linings. The red flannel lining inside the sleeping bag, boys and girls, makes their sleeping bag really, really cozy and warm. Mouse brought a regular sleeping bag, the kind you use when you go camping. She said the last time she slept outside, she woke up with a frog inside her bag. But since she likes frogs, she didn't mind. I would much rather sleep in a sleeping bag indoors than out. We arranged the sleeping bags on the floor next to my bed, with Mouse between Sandra and Jane. Then we showed each other our pajamas and discussed the kind of toothpaste we use. Sandra and Jane didn't bring matching pajamas, so me and Mouse turned out to be twins by ourselves. I'm wondering, boys and girls, why they would talk about what kind of toothpaste they use. That seems a little strange, but I'm just wondering that to myself. I would never say it out loud to them. Next, we got undressed and ready for bed, even though we didn't plan to go to sleep for hours and hours, and maybe not even all night. Sandra changed her clothes in my closet. I think she is getting fatter, but I wouldn't say that to her face. She is very sensitive and would start to cry. Well, that's a good thing that Sheila wondered that to herself. It would be really awful for her to say that to her face. She started to wonder that maybe she should go on a diet. I can't understand how such a fat person can swim. Why doesn't she sink to the bottom of the pool? Someday I will ask Marty about that. Now, again, Sheila's just wondering this. She's not saying it out loud. Sandra and Jane threw their clothes in a pile on the floor, but Mouse folded everything and packed it away in her overnight case. Then she took out a small notebook and said, "Let's make a slam book." "What's that?" Jane asked. I was glad she asked because I didn't know either. I figured I would tell Mouse that the reason I didn't know about slam books is that I haven't made one in years, because where I live that is just for babies. Again, Sheila's not telling the truth. Do you remember when she didn't want to admit about not being able to play yo-yo? Well, here she goes again with the same old story. Do you think if she would have said that, Mouse would have believed her? I don't think so. Mouse is really smart. Mouse told us slam books are great fun. You'll see. She was busy writing something down in her notebook. We sat in a circle around her and waited. In a minute she held up a piece of paper and said, "This is a sample list. All of us fill it in about each other. It's the only way to find out what your friends really think of you." I looked at the sample list. It said, name, hair, face, body, brain, best thing, worst thing, and in general. "You see," Mouse explained, "we'd never be brave enough to just sit around and tell each other the truth about ourselves. That would be embarrassing. But since everybody wants to know what other people really think of them, this is an easy way to find out. You can start with me if you want. I'll go stand in the hall and you fill in the list. Later, when we've all had our chance, we get to read about ourselves in private." Mouse walked to my bedroom door. "Remember," she told us, "you've got to be honest or it won't do any of us any good." She opened the door and stepped out into the hall. "Well," I said, "who wants to go first?" "You start, Sheila," Jane said. "It's your party." "Okay, give me the book." Before I had a chance to begin, my bedroom door opened and Mouse poked her head in. "I forgot to tell you, when you're done filling it in, you fold the page over so nobody can see what you wrote." "Okay, okay," I said. "I just thought you should know," Mouse told me, closing the door again. I filled in the list. 1, 2, 3. I wrote, name, Mouse Ellis. Hair, needs washing. Face, only a mother could love it. Body, too many scabs. Brain, pretty bad. Best thing, can do everything. Worst thing, knows it. In general, my best friend and lots of fun. Okay, so this is the list that Sheila wrote about Mouse. How do you think Mouse is going to feel reading some of these things? Why do you think Mouse wanted to play this game? Let's read on and see if you can come up with the answers. I folded my part of the page over so the others couldn't see it and passed it to Sandra. When she was done, she passed it to Jane, and then we called Mouse back into the room, and Sandra went out. While Sandra was in the hall, Mom came upstairs to tell us she and Daddy were going to town to pick up some pizza for her snack. "We'll be back in less than an hour," Mom said. "Libby and Marianne are home in case you need anything." "Okay, we'll be fine," I said, anxious to get back to the slam book. When we were done writing about Sandra, it was my turn to leave the room. I knew I didn't have anything to worry about what my friends think of me, because I am careful to keep my bad points to myself. I'm wondering, boys and girls, do you think that she's really successful in keeping her bad points to herself? Do you think her friends don't see that she walks around thinking that she's Sheila the Great? Well, we'll soon find out. Sometimes I think I am really two people. I am only one who knows Sheila Tubman. Everyone else knows only Sheila the Great. Jane was the last one to stand out in the hall, and when we were through writing about her, she came back into my room. Then Mouse tore out a page for each of us to write privately. She said we should sit by ourselves and face the wall in case we didn't want anyone to see our expression. We all laughed at that, but did it anyway. I sat on my bed with my back to the others. I unfolded my paper so I could see all 3 opinions of me at once. Sheila Tupman, hair. Someone wrote that it was parted crooked. Someone else wrote that her hair should grow longer. Someone else wrote, much too long. About Sheila's face, someone wrote, ugly but lovable. Another person wrote, weird eyebrows. Someone else wrote about her face that it was gruesome. Her body, they said that she was skin and bones. Someone else wrote that she had ugly feet. And someone else wrote that her body was abnormal. For her brain, someone wrote that she thinks she knows it all. And then someone else wrote that she was a mental. And then someone else wrote that her brain was overused. The best thing was that she picks neat friends. Someone else wrote that the best thing was that she gives parties. And then someone else just wrote a bunch of question marks. The worst thing, someone wrote, was that she was a chicken. Someone else wrote that she was bossy. And then someone else realized that she acted real tough. In general, an interesting person, not that bad, and there's hope. Who did they think they were? Why did I ever bother to invite them to my house? Why, they didn't deserve it. I read about myself 6 times, but I couldn't turn away from the wall. After a while, I noticed that the room was very quiet. I wondered what the others were thinking. That's when Sandra started to cry. I knew it was her even though I was facing the wall. First she cried low, and when I turned around to look at her, she took her hands away from her mouth and started bawling so loud you could probably hear it a mile away. I hate you, she yelled. Every single one of you. You all think I'm a big fat slob. Even my own sister thinks I'm a fat slob. Well, you are, Jane said, and you should do something about it. Anyway, somebody said some pretty bad things about me too, like I can't keep secrets and my brain is turned off most of the time. So, Mouse said, I don't think it was fair of you to make fun of my scabs. I didn't make fun of your scabs, Jane hollered. Somebody did. Well, it wasn't me, Jane yelled. I didn't say anything because I was the one who wrote that about Mouse's scabs, but I never thought it would bother her so much. And another thing, Mouse said, I don't think any of you have the right to tell me that my hair needs washing. What's so bad about that? Sandra asked. How do you think I feel that 2 of you wrote I'm a crybaby? You are a crybaby, Mouse told her, and I don't see what business is it of yours that my belly button sticks out. I didn't write that, Sandra said. I wrote about your ears. Well, that's just as dumb. I'm the one who wrote about your belly button, Jane said, and it does stick out, so there. Just shut up, Jane, Mouse hollered. Jane was standing near my dresser, and when Mouse said that, Jane picked up one of Bobby Egan's model airplanes and threw it across the room at her. Who's going to make me? She said. You cut that out, I told her. They're not mine. So, Jane said, throwing a plane at me. I told you to cut that out, I shouted. And I want to know which one of you wrote that my body is abnormal. I'm going to stop here. And I want you to think about some of the things that's going on because this is pretty awful.